Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching a special coverage of the mega swearing-in ceremony of the US President-elect Donald Trump. That's slated for later tonight. In fact, Donald Trump is all set to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States tonight at 10:30 p.m. India time. He will also deliver his inaugural address after the swearing-in ceremony, and that will set the tone for his presidency and his vision for the United States. Now, the oath-taking ceremony will take place inside the US Capitol due to dangerously cold temperatures in the country. And besides former presidents, it is prominent leaders from Silicon Valley who will be in attendance too, like Elon Musk, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Apple CEO Tim Cook, and OpenAI's Sam Altman, amongst others. Indeed, an exciting moment when we look at the intersection of politics and technology and how that continues and will continue to shape our world. But ladies and gentlemen, a tumultuous presidency precedes Donald Trump. His previous four-year term was marked by intense political drama and tumultuous moments on Capitol Hill following his loss in the subsequent election. So naturally, there is a lot of conjecture around what Trump 2.0 could mean for big techs, given how we've seen Meta bring about policy changes, or even the story of banning TikTok. In fact, Trump has also gone softer on his H1B Visa stance. To analyze and discuss what bearing could a Trump 2.0 have on these and several other aspects, I'm now joined in by a special guest this evening, Mohandas, former Infosys CFO and now the chairman of Areen Capital. Thank you very much, Mr. Pai, for joining us here on ET Now. Always a pleasure to have you on our show. My first question to you now, Donald Trump, like I said, is all set to take charge tonight in just a short while from now. What are you really expecting from his second term? And he did speak about a whole lot of issues in his last rally as president-elect. He also stated that he's going to repeal a set of executive orders that have been passed by the Biden administration. Now, which one of these, and he's been speaking about some of these in the past few months, which of these could concern India?
No, I think the important thing today is with Trump coming, we can possibly solve many of the issues plaguing the world. For example, the Ukraine-Russia war. We need a ceasefire and we need people to talk. Putin is not a pariah. We must talk to him. That is important. We must stop the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Israel and Hamas. I think there's a ceasefire right now because of Trump. Then we must stop Iran from funding terrorists, Hamas and Hezbollah, because we can't have a sovereign country funding terrorists. That has to stop. Then Trump will have to resolve the issue of NATO, how NATO is going to behave in the next few years. Then trade. And Trump has made it clear that he wants an open system to say that if Americans export, you put tariffs. And when you export, you don't want tariff, it's going to be reciprocal. That's going to impact India. So as far as Trump is concerned, there are three areas which could impact India. First, his tariffs could make the dollar stronger. And I think that's going to have repercussions on the currency. Our currency could weaken. Fortunately, we have good reserves, but we have to see what is the effect on the global financial system. Will the interest rate in the US come down? Will capital come out of the US globally? And how is it going to work? We don't know. There's a great degree of uncertainty because inflation is coming up. Fortunately, he'll make sure that oil prices come down because he's going to open up much more acreage. The second.
Absolutely, Mr. Pai, and inflation is still a concern, for the world. And of course, very rightly that you pointed out about dollar could strengthening even further. It's been strengthening since the past few weeks. But particularly talking about India and the IT sector, how is the IT sector overall should be looking at these developments, particularly with respect to his H1B visa policy, around which there's been some anxiety amongst Indian techies, although he's softened his stance around that?
There's a lot of misinformation about the H1B, which I think we need to resolve. People say that Indian companies bring in low-cost labor. This is not low-cost labor. If you get a person from India to work there for a short while and pay them $80,000, what the company that hires the person pays is about $125,000, $130,000. $80,000 of what the person gets, but what the company charges $125,000. Certainly, people are not getting people from outside because they're cheaper. They're getting them because they're a very great quality. They need help. They don't find enough people. So I think that myth of low cost should be dispelled with. But I think, My view is Indian companies today in Trump 2 are in a much better shape to navigate whatever happens in H1B because their exposure to H1B is quite less. Point number one. Point number two, they ramped up local hiring. I mean, Infi only has, I think, 10, 15, 20,000 people locally hired there. So they got local hiring, they got training facilities, they've changed the revenue model. And third, offshore has increased. If Trump clamps up, offshore increased tremendously, India will benefit. So I don't see great worry for on H1B for Indian companies because they understand what to do. And please remember, post-COVID, everything is off the table. After COVID, you could work anywhere, at home or anywhere, and still be part of the network. In the US, work from home has become the norm. Now people want to come back to work. But when you work from home, whether you are in New York in San Francisco for a New York company or in Bangalore for a New York company, it's the same. You're away. You're part of the network. So I think, we don't have to worry too much. There could be pinpricks, but I think Indian IT companies are well placed, much better placed than when Trump came in first in Trump 1.
So when you say that Indian IT companies are much better placed this time around than they were in, the first presidency of Donald Trump, why would you say that? Could you expand a bit more on that, Mr. Pai? You've spoken about it, but if you could expand a bit more.
No, because look, dependence on H1B has come down compared to Trump 1. Point number one. Point number two, offshoring has gone up. The lesser number of people on site than earlier. So the dependence on site has come down. And point number three, they hired a lot of local people there to do much of the work, right? So if you look at data, you'll see very, very clearly that the top Indian companies' total share of H1B has come down, but US companies' share of H1B has gone up because the US companies are facing a critical shortage of people. So I think we are better placed, even when whatever happens, and we are paying well. It's not that we are paying low wages at the margin and all that. We are paying very well, and American companies cannot do without Indian IT.
Okay. So American companies cannot do with Indian IT. So you're saying that this will bode well for Indian IT companies and overall the tech sector. But Mr. Pai, how will this relationship overall, if you see with India, pan out, given that there's the now involvement of Elon Musk as well, who happens to be very much a businessman, but at the same time, he's all set to head the DOGE department in the Trump administration. So there are those concerns emanating as well.
Well, I think relationship will be better because one, Prime Minister Modi has a good relationship with President Trump. Two, the deep state in the State Department in the US will be kept down. They'll be cleaned up. That's what Trump has said. Last time he said he will drain the swamp in Washington. Didn't happen because he did not have people. Now he's got people. He knows what is wrong. He knows what the FBI did to him. He knows what the CIA did to him. He knows what the State Department does to him. He's going to clean up. And the deep state is enemy of India. They've been interfering in politics. They're all hand in glove with George Soros. And their entire gang will be cleaned up by Trump. That's what Trump has said and his people have said. So I think that will be very good for India because we won't have this extra constitutional extra constitutional NGO people trying to interfere in politics outside. They had a regime change in Bangladesh. We've seen that. They tried in other places. The next point, which is very important, is on business. I think we can sit across the table and solve it because Trump knows his biggest enemy is China. Because China is 30% of global manufacturing. China has got a $1 trillion trade surplus last year.
All right, so you're essentially pointing out to the fact that China plus one policy by the US administration could be a big win for India. Now, Mr. Pai, one big order, let me take your attention to that. One big order that came in ahead of Trump swearing in was on the issue of TikTok, whether it should be banned, not banned. Now it's been finally averted. But how do you really see the relationship of big tech this time around with Trump 2.0 and how that will in turn set the tone for the rest of the world with respect to the monopolies that these big tech companies have created the world over?
Well, big tech was asked to bend, they choose to crawl. That's what I said about the Indian media and emergency, right? The big tech played along with the Biden administration. They accepted censorship. They shut down everybody. They were partisan. They played games. They shut down Trump. And Trump knows this very well, that they were against Trump. Now they funded the Democrats. So they're all cutting favor with Trump. They're paying money to be in the inaugural. They're all sucking up. And Trump knows that very well. Trump will handle big tech. Big tech has got a lot to lose if Trump comes up. And I think there's going to be greater action on this digital monopolies like Google and Facebook, because they are digital monopolies. I think there's going to be action there. EU is taking action, and the US too is taking action. Even for Microsoft in AI, there'll be action. So I think the big tech will crawl before Trump, and Trump knows how to control them because, with their behavior with the Biden administration was a behavior of subordinates with a superior because, they chose to do the bidding of that Biden administration, even against the law, by shutting off people and doing everything else.
All right, so you're suggesting that there could be more worries coming in for big tech companies and, of course, the hegemony and the monopolies that they have created. Of course, we're seeing, Mr. Pai, backlash coming in from EU, from India, from Australia and several other countries. And, of course, big tech certainly is one section that's bracing itself for Trump 2.0. On that note, thank you very much once again for joining us here and sharing your thoughts on what Trump 2.0 could mean for India, for the big tech sector and, of course, the IT sector.